You going in on Android Studio?
I finally found my flash drive finally. It was at the bottom of my because I didn't realize that the pocket went down that low.
I lost my mouse from mine when I was in the side pocket.
I lost my flash drive for.
I was super excited. I wanted in a super good mood this week because I managed to not fail my math test last week. I mean, I dropped my chemistry grade an entire grade because I fell asleep during
Now go ahead and click through next on all this. Choose empty activity.
Do you want a specific name?
Whatever name you want to give it. We're just playing here. Next. And then click finish.
File, new, project, it'll load.
Say basic.
It's gonna take 6 hours for this.
Which activity?
I'm just gonna name it test.
Do what?
Which activity?
Empty.
We use ice cream sandwich
Whatever's default, just go ahead and leave it. Mm-hmm.
because it's.
Oh, yours is
mine's
might be
different.
I don't know. Let me see what mine says. Okay, so click next. Ice cream sandwich. Yeah.
Okay. Is it? Yeah. It's new.
You should be able to even do even higher, but I just leave it as default, so I don't even mess with that. And empty, and then main activity.
I may be able to use my laptop today.
Mine's not trying to download stuff.
It takes a while to download. Yours took probably what 45 minutes last time. Or?
Oh, mine's already downloaded.
Oh, really?
I never properly closed out my last one, so it's trying to open it.
Now across the top you have your activity main.xml and your main activity Java. Again, click the activity main.xml to go to your design. If you have two of them on the screen, you can do the drop down here and just choose the design. That's the only thing we'll look at for now. You're waiting? Okay.
It's for 5 that got loaded.
Yeah, that's what mine's doing.
Darn kids and their new laptops.
That's cool.
Is it done loading?
Yeah. Where do I? I'm gonna click on main activity.
Click on activity main.xml.
Wait, you're about to finish that?
Yes. It's ridiculous.
So, how was your Labor Day? Not you.
Fabulous. I caught up on my intro.
Sweet.
Now while it's waiting to build, we'll just refresh your memory from the day. If we wanted to add two numbers together, you come over to your text and you can drag the number over here.
That's why it's going so slow. It opened on my other project. Why? Get out of here.
You know, I had that happen one time. I didn't realize what I was doing, and I kept double clicking, and I must have had like 8 different versions of Android Studio open. I was wondering why my machine was going so slow. I was just like, what's wrong with this machine?
So you said text the number?
Yeah, choose the text option, then number, and drag and drop it on here.
It closed my whole Android Studio when I exited out of one of my projects.
Loser.
Now I want to then drop the other text box over there, or the number.
What's that?
So I drag and drop it over there. We'll take our button, drag the button, put it over here. And then we'll drop another text number
Get out of here, tip of the day.
over there also.
Oh man, my tax won't let me.
Just finally loaded in.
Okay, we're on design, right?
Yeah, it needs like an activity underscore main.xml.
I didn't even see what you're doing wrong. Oh, you hadn't clicked inside the white space. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was like that. I just need to click back in and do it.
Yeah, hold on. You have a box. That's not a box. That's
So do we need text
Inside
and
the
two
white
numbers
area.
there?
fine. You don't have a box.
I think you got version 28.
Okay, so good text.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, choose text.
We give you the general idea.
Yeah.
Two numbers, button. So in total, you're gonna have 3 numbers and a button.
If you're using on your own laptop, what I had to do to get it to work, I still haven't got the Xamarin working yet. But Android Studio, I had to go to Tools, SDK Manager. And I downloaded all the SDK tools to begin with.
The Android SDK?
no.
I downloaded all those. And then I did okay, exited out. And then I had to go in here and the SDK platforms, uncheck Android API 28 and check the Android 8.1, which is the API level 27. You might be easier to use the other computer for now, but
Okay, so what did you say first? I got all the things downloading now.
Okay, so download all of those, and then in platforms, you do what?
first install everything here to begin with.
Yeah.
And then, after that gets done, come in here and uncheck the Android API 28 and choose the API 27. And choose OK on that. That's going to take quite a while, so if you want to use one of the other computers, then you can.
Where's API?
It's just in the box there if you want to. Here, it's kind of weird how to open it, though.
I use one on the top, or is that not?
Oh, is there one on top? Yeah, use that one.
Which one's API 27?
The second one. These products are very buggy.
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed in Xamarin, because that's one I was hoping for. Because I do like Visual Studio better. I've used Visual Studio for 20 years, I think.
I just like. I know how to have Visual Studio.
But
I just
you
enabled.
just forgot how to do all that.
I just enabled it whenever I installed it.
Okay. I'll find it one of these days.
think I like my PC better. Longer. That 144 hertz is better than the 60. Then we go back and forth, it's like, I did test that shit.
Just said it like version 28.
Which button are you using? Regular button.
This is a regular button.
Wait, how much battery is expected? 7 hours.
On yours or?
Yeah, I don't have to worry about breaking my beer.
Okay. Now we're just going to do the add numbers again, just to refresh our memory, and then we'll build upon that. If I click this first edit text here, you see the ID up here in the upper right-hand corner is edit text. You can type ED for edit text, underscore num1, press enter. You want to make sure you don't put any spaces in there. I think, JC, didn't you put a space in there?
I put space in something else, but
not in text box. Yeah, and it did some real weird stuff.
Oh, I put it in the button.
In the button? Yeah. It's not very, spaces typically are discouraged in about anywhere in programming. You click your second one, and you can change the name of it. That ID is a name to edit underscore num2.
Okay, so we have 2 numbers.
A button and then another number. And then our third text, we'll put our, for the ID, ed underscore sum. Now for the button, if you want to change what it says, you click the button, and then over in text, you can change it to calculate or whatever you want.
Okay, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Whenever you change the name of that second one, did it ask you for whatever the update or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think there's any rhyme or reason on it.
Yeah, because whenever I
Asked you for that?
The first one, it says update usage as well.
I always say yes on that to all or whatever.
And then I do it on the second text box, and it doesn't ask me that. And I had that problem yesterday.
Why it's doing that is I haven't set up any of my constraints yet. These are kind of free form, so they all go up to the upper right, left-hand corner if I right at this point. But if I click the magic wand, so at this point, go ahead and click your magic wand, the infer constraints. Now, you see these lines going across from one component to another component? Those connections are made. So now if I go and rename it, it'll ask me if I want to rename it every place it's referenced. Does that make sense? I'm guessing you had clicked your magic wand before you had changed your names. Maybe.
Yeah.
So that's why you got it and I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does everybody have your lines going between your components? Lines going between your components?
Oh, no, I didn't click the magic one.
Okay. So now we got everything set up there. If we go back to our main activity, Java, down here before your last curly bracket, you want to put public void button click, and then view v. Has to be uppercase V for the view. Public and void all has to be lowercase. Now it has little the views in red. It's asking us if we want to import the code for it. And then you simply do an Alt Enter to have it import the code. Then you press Enter, you put your beginning curly bracket, press Enter. And now you should have your basic setup for your beginning and closing curly bracket.
Just got screwed up and accidentally deleted the last curly bracket. Ooh.
Those are easy to fix. Now, if you screwed up this stuff up above here, like you deleted it, I'd have to tell you to redo your project. I couldn't tell you what this all should be to begin with.
Protected void unpaid.
Now, at this point, we're ready to start working with our fields we put over here. So our edit texts. Remember, this is called edit_num1. So I'm going to have an edit text, and you give it some kind of name, your choice. I'll say n1 is equal to, and then inside of parentheses, edit text, and then find view by ID. And the code completion is almost essential on this. So once you start typing find, and it pops up with that, go ahead and do your tab. Because then it'll make sure all the uppercase and lowercase are correct, and you won't have to worry about it. Now I'm going to start typing
R.ID.
r.id.ed. And again, when you start typing ed, it pops up with all the ones you started with ed. You can do a tab, choose the one. Now it's still red, so if you do an Alt Enter at that point, it'll add a library. Or you could manually add it yourself here at the top. So you could do an import Android widget edit text, and that would bring it in. When you do the Alt Enter and the red goes away, it's adding the import to bring in that code. Then if I do an edit text, n2 is equal to edit text, find view by ID, r.id.ednum2, and edit text n3 is equal to edit text, find view by ID, r.id.edsum. Now this declares N1, N2, and N3, so we can then access contents from the edit text on the app. Remember, we can declare double, D1, D2, D3. That declares a number with decimals. Then I can say D1 is equal to double dot parse double. And then n1 dot get text dot toString, and d2 is equal to double dot parse double, get there eventually. It has to be uppercase D. Dot parse double. Put in parentheses. I don't want parentheses. Okay, parse double into .getText .toString. Now, format's exactly the same on this. You got your whatever variable is, and then your data type dot parse double. So if you had an integer, then you'd have something similar. And you get text and toString if you're retrieving from a edit text field. Then D3 is equal to D1 plus D2, so you add numbers together. And we need to put it back out into N3, so we do a set text. And I say double dot toString. And we'll type in D3.
There's one of the dark thing.
All of you should be hooked up into the printer now. So anytime you want to print your code to have it refer to for future projects, you can. And I'll put the IP address of the printer up there on the board, so those of you doing your own laptop, once you get the software installed, if you want to print from your laptop, you should be able to. I was disappointed though. I thought maybe the printer was set up such you could didn't have to be connected to the wire to print to it. Yeah. It's like, oh, cool. This will be like my printer at home. I can just configure it and don't have to be connected. Yeah, you do. Is everybody good down to that point? Okay. So now, to run it, you click this green triangle up here. Run app. I'm lying to you. Hit cancel. I forgot this the other day. Remember what I need to do? Yeah. You come back to your design. So you go back to activity main. You click your button, and then you have to come over here where it says on click. You do the drop down, and you choose your button click you just created. And now run it. When it pops up, you can just take that as default, so you can click OK, or you can use the same selection for future launches if you want. Random switch, yeah. I don't understand why that's popping up, but I was playing with this last night, and I would think it'd pop up with what I was playing with last night. But... Okay, so now if I do 3 and I put 4 in here and click calculate, it gives us 7. Working on everybody's? Okay. Now I'm going to click back here at Android Studio, and I click the red square to stop it. Again, what that's done is that's generated an APK file. You can take that APK file and put it on your own drive, and then you could install it from any phone. So, okay, so now I'm going to expand upon what we looked at. We got our common here, which has some items, specifically the switch. So you see there's a switch there. If you don't see the switch there, it's probably under buttons. So this right here, I can drag and drop over to here. Now currently it's got a little red circle around it, meaning it's not tied to anything, which means to throw it up in the upper left-hand corner if we undid something. Remember to infer constraints. You can clear all constraints by doing this little line with a red X. That deletes it, and then if you do the infer constraints, it'll assume the one it's closest to is one it should be connected to. And then the spacing you have on your screen is what it'll assume that it needs to do the spacing when you run the app. Now if you click switch over here, you see it's got an ID, and it doesn't matter what convention you come up with, it doesn't matter what package you use. You should come up with some kind of convention to specify. Maybe SW for switch. And maybe this will be add 100. So again, I didn't put any spaces. I did SW underscore add 100 and press enter. If you scroll down, you'll see different options here. There's one of them that says text. And instead of it saying switch, I'm going to say add 100 and press enter. Idea here is that, and I know it doesn't make any sense of what we're doing, but if they click this, it'll add 100 onto the sum also. So it'll add the two numbers that we have previously, but it'll also add another 100. Is that good so far? So now we go back to our main activity Java. And here's where I'm adding my numbers. I've just added D1 plus D2. I'm going to need to refer to my switch. In order to refer to the switch, we have to bring it in. Now, if this is edit text, and that's an edit text component, what do you think I'm going to put here? Close. If you click this over here, right here it says it's a switch. But yeah, right idea. So if I come over here and I start typing switch, you'll see it pops up and says it's an Android widget. You can call it whatever you want here. I'll call it S1 equals. Now, if I did a beginning parentheses and I put edit text up and above, what do you think I'll put here? Switch, yeah. And then before I put a find view, so what do you think I'll put here? Find view by ID again. And r.id. If you start typing SW, you're going to see what you just created, SW underscore add 100. And if I do a tab to do the code completion, we've now just brought the switch in. Now down here, we'll put our if statement. We'll say if, and we'll do a beginning parentheses. If I start typing S1 dot, and if I don't know what in the world I should program, they try to put the more popular ones up at the top. So which one do you think I want to choose? This check. It's kind of implied, isn't it? Now that's all you have to put up there. That's a Boolean. It returns true or false, whether it's checked or not. So then you say if s1.is checked, I put a beginning curly bracket, I put a closing curly bracket. Technically, most programming languages, if you just have one line of code that you're putting in there, you don't need to put the curly brackets. I just put it there by default, so if I start adding other lines of code, it's there. And now I'll say D3 is equal to D3 plus 100. Okay. Now we've already established a connection between our button and this bit of code right here. So I can run it. Click OK. Pops up here. I do a 3, 4, and if I click calculate, it gives me 7, right? If I click this over, so I switch it on, and now I click calculate, it gives me 107. So it added the 3 plus 4 and then added an additional 100 on. Now I'm going to have you here in a little bit. I'm going to show a couple other things. But in a little bit, I'm going to have you create a tip app where you put in your amount from your check, and then you'll have some switches on there where you will add on 15% or 10% for your tip. You know, you choose different ones, and you can choose it and so forth. Everybody get that working? Okay. I'll come back here and I'll click the red square to stop it. I'll go back to activity main. Now that's one option where you can do that. There's also a checkbox, and it's kind of your choice on which one you'd want to use. Checkbox and a switch kind of perform the same function. If I drop this checkbox on here, and I drop another checkbox on here, and I might even drop a third one. Now, again, the constraints are screwed up. I have to clear the constraints, and then I do the magic wand to reconnect everything. And it tries to infer the correct way that these should be arranged. It isn't always perfect. Sometimes I have it a little bit too far away, or the configuration's not right, and then it does weird things. And then I have to kind of move it around and reconnect everything. What do you think you do with a checkbox? Check it. Yeah. So if you want this option, you check it. So I'm going to click my first checkbox here, and I'll come over here, and you see the ID says checkbox. Maybe I want to say CBox for checkbox underscore, and it's too early. I can't really think of fantastic examples besides the tip thing. But if I want to add 500, then I'll check that. Now, you see how it says update usages as well, and we'll click yes. That's because we did the infer constraints first, and it did all those lines connecting everything together. So when I change it in this one place, I want to change it everywhere. If you say no, it'll change it in that one place and break the other ones. Maybe not break it, but it won't look right when you run it. Okay, so the second one, I'm going to change it to CBox. And add 1,000. And say yes. And this one I'll change it to CBox. And add 2,000. Yeah, click yes. Okay, so we got names for all three of these now. Now, I have this one checked. Look what type it's called. It's called a checkbox, isn't it? So when you come over to your code, main activity. We have to first establish a connection. The above said edit text and then switch. What do you think this will say? Checkbox. Yeah, they're all the same type. And I'll call it CB1 is equal to, and again, checkbox.
No.
Yeah. Find view by ID, r.id. I started the C box. Whatever convention you decide upon, if you start naming them all the same, the very beginning, then when you start typing it, it brings up all the ones you're looking for. That's the benefit of it. You can give them whatever name you want, but this when I type checkbox and it pops up like that. Now notice how it's in red again. Again, to import the code automatically, you do Alt-Enter. And what that does is up here at the top, it added in a import Android widget checkbox. So it brings in just that code it needs. Okay, I need 2 more connections. So I have another checkbox, CB2 is equal to checkbox. Find view by ID, r.id.cbox. And we'll add 1000. Checkbox CB3 is equal to checkbox. Find view by ID, r.id.cbox. 2000. Now down here, I checked if this is checked. Let's see how this differs. I'm going to put another if statement down below this one, and I'm going to say if CB1 dot, and as I look through here, what do you notice? It's checked. Yeah, right there. I'm really surprised by that. It usually tries to put the most common elements you'll pick up at the top. So I'm not sure why it is checked, because that's something you would always want to check. So if they check that, we're going to add, how much we're going to add? 500. So D3 is equal to D3 plus 500. We'll say if CB1 or CB2 dot is checked, then we'll say D3 is equal to D3 plus 1000. And if CB3 is checked, D3 is equal to D3 plus 2000. Now, notice what I did different here. I did not put the beginning curly bracket and closing curly bracket, did I? It does not require that in about every programming language if you have one line of code. It doesn't hurt anything, and it prepares it if you want to add other code in there. But you don't have to have it. So if you like a minimal amount of curly braces, then you can, if you got one line of code, you can just do it that way. Xcode does not have the checkbox from what I can see, because basically it performs the exact same function as a switch. It's kind of a holdover from people that are used to programming in Visual Studio. Checkbox has been there forever. So every package that's come after Visual Studio is kind of the started that. Well, I shouldn't say that. There were some DOS ones I used that had checkboxes too. But. Okay, so now if I run this, click OK. Oops. Okay, it was already up, and I didn't. I'm used to Xcode pops up the emulator. Okay, put 3 here, put 4 here, click calculate. Gives me, that's interesting. Is yours working?
It's broken.
Mine works.
Global checkbox. My last checkbox is here on the bottom.
Mine works fine.
Let me try running mine again. Okay, so put 3 in here, put 4 in here, click calculate. How strange. Why is mine broke? Oh, look what I have at the end of my if statement. I have a semicolon there. You cannot have a semicolon there because it was adding 1,000. I hadn't checked anything. Okay, now let me try it. And then after I get mine working, I'll come look at yours, Heather, unless you figured it out. Okay, so 3, 4, click calculate, put 7, which it should. I do my little switch here. Click calculate, 107, it should. Now I should have changed the name of this, but that was our add 500. So I click that, it gives us 607. I click this checkbox, it should give us 1607, which it does. This should give us 3607. Yeah. Yeah, so everything's working there. It's your choice when you design an app whether you want to use a checkbox or a switch. I think the switch is more.
Oh, so I know I'm right.
No more practical than checkbox.
A little more practical, a little more professional. Checkbox is kind of clumsy.
I know that's right.
D3 is D3. That's a closing one that should be beginning.
No.
Is that a closing one there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Touch it, Todd.
Yeah.
Can't touch it.
I don't like to punch the fly. I think you
No, it's because I can't
talk
type.
with your agent. More completely. I really like to punch the agent. No, the fly
Now we're not going to go into it till next time, but I do want to mention it. If you click this checkbox here, and you come over here and you look at the different items, you see there's checked. If you have that, that'll be checked to begin with in your code. If I do come down here, if I can get rid of this here, you see there's a view all attributes. Comes up with everything that you can set, you can program, so forth. Up here with a little magnifying glass, if you click that, you can start searching. On click. Can't see it over there. see how, what did I do to do that? I think I clicked the little paintbrush thing. And then when it pops this up, I think I clicked 3 little dots. Maybe not. Click the paintbrush again. And I got a bunch of them. Let me get rid of that. Okay, delete that. The on click here. If you do the drop down,
You just have to find it. Or double click on it.
there. Okay. I couldn't see the little thing. I'm getting new. I got my new glasses are in, so I can actually see again. But you can program your own code here, so you can have a separate piece of code for each of your components. Now that's true on everything, like this. There's some kind of when you switch it over, you can program it to do something else. So I'm guessing this would probably be what, on or click or something like that. On click. There's an on click. Looks like on click. I'll use your advice. Double click it. No. Okay. Is it the paintbrush? And then, okay, paintbrush, and then you can do your drop down. So you're asking about how can you have one switch shut off another switch? That's how you do it. Let me try to do that. I've never have actually tried that, so this will be first. So on switch, where's that at? Here's another switch. This one, what do I call it? First one. First one I call it SW_add100. So this one I'm gonna call SW_add200. And I'll change the text of it to add 200. If I click this, I wanted to shut off the other switch. So if I come over to my main activity, I come down here before my last curly bracket, and I'll put a public, was it void? What? Oh, did I? But, yeah. And then switch it. And then view V. Alt enter. If it prompts. It doesn't prompt.
Switch it.
Now we can then do here where we do our switch. SW1 again equals switch, and was this find view by ID r.id .switch add 200. We also want to create a connection to the other one. Okay, so we've established that connection here. I can say if switch1 dot is checked. Oh, actually, which one's switch 1 is the one we want to check. Yeah, is checked. Then here's the code where I want to shut off the other switch. So this is the part I'm not quite sure how to do. S2W set checked. Set checked. And then I'll put a false in here, I think. Now, I created this code, so now if I come over here, I want to attach it to this. So again, if I do this drop down under, what was it, on click? No memory. Yeah, on click. And double click that, do the drop down. You'll see 2 bits of code now. And you choose switch it. And if I run this, I don't think I did infer constraints. So we're not going to probably be able to see the add 200. It'll be up in the upper left-hand corner. Oh, well, I can see it. So it's up here. Okay, so if I have that on, if I click this, see how it shuts that one off? So you're asking how you do that. And you see, if it's already off, it doesn't affect it at all. I'll go ahead and stop that. The idea of good design is that you don't put everything behind this one button click. Everything you do on a screen has code behind it. Like if you want to swipe across your screen, that should do something. If you do your fingers in and out like that, that should do something. So you can program all of that. Now what I want you to create is a tip program where you bring in your amount from like a meal, and then you can have switches. You can say add 10%, add 15%, whatever you want. At least 2 switches or checkboxes, your choice. And then your total amount down here. Now, if you're wondering what is code behind that, if I'm adding 10%, you would take your amount plus amount times 10%. This code would be amount plus amount times 15%, like that. But again, print whatever you need from that test project we were just working on, and you have the rest of the time to work on that. I'm going to stop the recording here.